Welcome back to the Our View podcast. On this episode, I welcome my guest, Benny Chester. Benny is non-binary, and on this episode of the podcast, they share their experience of the importance of being our authentic selves. Benny and I also discuss their work as a licensed clinical social worker, working with clients in the LGBTQ plus community. So I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Our View podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. Today, I am happy to welcome my guest, Benny, to the show. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm excited to share your story with everyone.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Truly.
Yeah. So to start off, can you share with us who you are? Who is Benny?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Benny Chester. Let's see. I mean, how much do you want to know? I'm a parent.
Yes, you share as much as you feel comfortable with, and that's
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, we can go back to the beginning. So I was actually born in Russia. And I lived in an orphanage for 4 years of my life. So for the first 4 years, I was adopted at 4.5. At the time, my parents lived in Virginia. So I moved there with them. And then when I was 8, we moved to Colorado. So I pretty much say I'm from Colorado. I work I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work for the University of Colorado School of Medicine in their psychiatry department. So I help kind of run one clinic, and I'm a therapist and a couple others. And yeah, I have a disability. So I was born missing my left arm. And I also recently came out as non-binary. I came out just over 2 years ago, and then I started medically transitioning like exactly 2 years ago. I also have a kid. She's 4. So there was a lot, and I don't know how much time we have, but there was a lot about my identity, my gender identity in regards to being a parent. That was something that really, and now it feels, I don't know, so ridiculous. But at the time, I really had this really irrational fear of being myself. And I don't know what it was. I think there was this big irrational fear of, if I come out as a different gender in whatever way that ended up being, it was gonna harm her. It was gonna be a disservice to her. I was gonna be taking away her quote unquote mom. And it really, I didn't sleep for like a year over this, and I toiled over it. Was I going to therapy at the time? No. Why I wasn't, I don't know. But anyway, so I finally came out. That was great. In high school, I came out as gay. So I feel like, I'm one of those who kind of had 2 coming out stories, events in their life. I was married for a while. I'm kind of in the process of getting separated. So, there's that piece to me. I don't know. I'm kind of a perfect human, Art. I don't know, like, if you want to like keep that on the podcast. Like, I am like tip top. So,
Yes, you are.
I'm totally kidding. I have many, many flaws. For all the 5,000 people listening, many flaws.
and you live in Colorado, so
I do. I live in Colorado. I live in Denver.
Doesn't get much better than that. I've never been, so I definitely have to come visit. So
oh my gosh, you have to come, and please tell me when you do, and we will go out to dinner. I would love that.
Yes.
Yes.
And I love that you shared the part about your daughter, because you were being a parent, you were looking out for your daughter, you were looking to protect your daughter. That's that was the main thing, and that is that's what parents do. I had a conversation with someone else, and they said what do they call themselves? A helicopter mom. And I was like, no, you're
Mm,
just a mom. I said, because, my mom does the same thing and I'm 40 years old. And,
yeah, yeah,
it's a parent thing. It's a caregiver thing. It's in, I think the piece of that is
mm,
in all of us or most of us. And, we want to make sure that we protect those we care about the most. So that's,
yeah,
I think that's really, really important. I'm glad that you shared that part
yeah.
of your story.
Yeah. Well, and I think, to your point about protecting her, yes. But I also think, and I think there's a balance between protecting your kids, right? And living your life to be there for them and care for them and make sure that they have the best life that they can. But I think what I realized, either I don't know if I realized it before I came out or during it, and even more so, that I actually think that I would have done a disservice to her. I had not been willing to be who I really needed to be, because isn't that it, right? Like, isn't it about showing and being a role model for the people in your life that, yes, it's important to protect them and be there for them. And the best way to also do that is to be your authentic self. And that
Absolutely.
those realities are valid and they're very, very important. So I think, because I will say, like, me being my authentic self, I think it helps her. And not to be like this self-centered, like, ooh, I'm so great, but like kind of like I mean, really now she's aware of pronouns, right? Like has she has the opportunity every single day to know that her mom, because she still calls me mom, uses gender neutral pronouns. And she's 4 and she will correct people who use the wrong pronouns, right? Like, and how cool is that, right? By like just being yourself, you're automatically changing and educating the people around you. And so yes, it is vastly important to protect. And I will never, though, want to shy away from people being themselves in whatever way that means.
Absolutely. That is so, so true. And even as it's completely different, but having a disability, and I was sharing with you the story about my nephew.
Yeah.
And my nephew, they and my niece, they see me all the time. Much they saw me more often when they were younger, but they know what my disability is. They know what I can do, what I can't do, what I need help with. And not being afraid to show them that, like, okay, yeah, I would love to do that, but I really can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that shows, like, that's just me being real. But love to get on that ride with you, or love to do that crazy thing you want to do, but like, yeah, really, really don't
Yeah.
think I can. um so it's really, again, being your authentic self is so true, so key, and important. Yeah. So, you talked about it a little bit, about your disability. Can you share with us, a little bit more about your disability diagnosis, and how it impacts your life, and what challenges you have faced throughout your life because of your disability?
Hmm. I mean, I don't like, I guess I don't know the medical terminology, so I
Hmm.
apologize. But yeah, I mean, I'm missing my left arm. I'm also missing, so I only have 3 fingers on my right hand. Um, uh, you know, how has it impacted my life? I mean, obviously, in so many ways. When you were talking about the story about picking up your nephew, I, what that made me think of is that, and I don't know if you experienced, but I think as kids, at least, and I'll only speak for myself, but I know, like, growing up, I didn't know that there was quote unquote anything wrong with me, right? Like I just was me, right? And I didn't know. And like, and it's funny because in the orphanage, they actually made me wear a prosthetic arm. And I mean, granted, I don't remember what my little 4-year-old self was thinking, but I do remember this. Like, I never knew anything was different about me, right? and then I remember kind of this switch, and I don't remember if anything happened, but noticing, oh my gosh, I am different. And, you know, I think that I could have gone my whole life without really noticing anything was different, but you're forced to because the people around you suck, and they will force you to realize you are different. And it is so fun. So thank you, everybody. But I
Yes.
mean, but I think what I'm trying to say is like, I don't think my life is any different, right? Like, sure, I can't tie my shoes, right? Sure, I can't, I don't know, like, I can't be a firefighter and haul a huge ladder up a building. Like, that will never happen. But for the most part, I can do everything, right? I can
Hmm.
drive, put on my clothes, and I have a job, and I can care for my kid. And it's really, I don't know. I guess I've just been thinking a lot about that, and that people aren't really doing anything wrong, I guess, but it's not, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like life is that different until someone has to point out, like I will say, like at Walgreens one day, someone was like, wow, your life must really suck. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
thank you for that. But you see what I'm saying? Like, I would have never thought my life sucked. And then I had to do a little introspective, like, oh my God, does my life suck?
You're right.
I'm
Does
like,
it?
oh my God. So I don't know. I think it's a really interesting question, Art. I feel like in one way, it impacts my life 0%. And in another, it impacts it so incredibly vastly.
Hmm. I agree. It's so funny. I love the analogy you used about, being a firefighter and carrying a ladder. Yeah, I use crutches and a wheelchair. I'm like, so I can't play football. Then I look at football games and I'm like, who the hell wants to get knocked around like that for a living? I'm like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
good.
I
I'm
mean,
okay.
right. I mean, do I want to be a firefighter? Absolutely. But that's neither here nor
Right.
there. Yeah.
And but it's so true because like you said, until the people around you, and that's most of the time it's people outside of your inner circle, the people in
Right.
the
Exactly.
world who,
Right.
like you just said with the Walgreens situation. Oh, your life must suck. Like, does it? Like, no, I don't. I didn't think it did.
Right.
And
Right.
I have to do things differently. Yes, because of
Mm-hmm.
my limited mobility, I have to do things differently. So I
Yeah.
can't stand over a stove and cook. I have to sit in a chair and cook. I have to do it differently, but I still cook. I have to use hand controls when I drive, but I still drive. So it's the thing of, um, again, doing things differently and not, it's not that there's some things I can't do. Yes, I know my limitations. I'm realistic about them. But then also the things that I can do, I'm able to do them. It looks a little different for for some people because it's different than the way people without disability might do things, but it's how I do it. So, and then also I don't have anything else to compare it to. I was born with my disability as well. So
Exactly.
this is how I do things. It's how I always done things, and have a really great. She's a family friend, but we call them aunts and uncles, and so she came over to my apartment one time after I had moved in, and without my braces on, I can't walk at all, so I have to crawl.
Mm, mm,
I moved to my apartment 5 years ago, so I was 36 almost, and I'm crawling for 36 years. No problem.
mhm,
Well, she
mhm.
just got so upset about it. And she goes, I have to get you a wheelchair for your house. I said, no, you don't. Like, you don't. And she said,
Yep.
but I said, this is just how I do it. She said, but you can have a wheelchair and just move around and I'll have it to you by the weekend. I was like, okay, like that, like it would be helpful, yes. But I'm like, it's not necessary for me. And her grandson, who I'm very close to, he said, will you leave him alone? He's a grown man. He knows what he's doing.
Right. Right.
She
Right.
said,
Right.
no. She said, no, that's not, no, he should have a wheelchair in his house. He has one for his car and for when he goes out, but he needs one for his house. And, and I have one and I do use it. But it's just something I never thought of because I've always crawled. So I never, Never thought
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
it's really great that you have people on the Walgreens side of your story who say your life sucks and that that type of thing, and then you have people like my aunt I just described that are like, okay, how can I make things better for you and easier for you because like this, this is not cool. So it's great to have that balance, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I will say, I think I credit a lot of how I kind of take up space in the world, show up, do like I think I need to give credit, I think, to my parents, because they very much were with the mindset of, you're going to do everything and we're not going to step in until it is very apparent that you can't do crocheting in fifth grade, right? But like, and it wasn't like, oh yeah, Benny, you don't have to crochet, you poor little crippled soul. It was, oh no, you're gonna crochet, we're just gonna figure out how you crochet.
Right.
And I remember I was watching, as I do, I was either The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, and I don't know if you remember. This would, gosh, I think it was in college, so it would have been, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. There was a season where I think it was The Bachelor, where one of the women was missing part of her arm. Do you remember this?
No.
Do you ever watch The Bachelor? So okay, it
What?
was fascinating. So and she was missing her arm. I think it was one of her arms, like from the elbow down, right? And I don't know if they played it up in the show or not, but she acted like she couldn't do anything. She was rollerblading, right? It doesn't take two arms to rollerblade, right? He was like falling over and saying how horrible her balance is. And what it made me realize is, one, if that was not true, then not great to the show for doing that. But what it made me really take note of is, again, I'm so grateful that I grew up in an environment where I had to figure it out, and there was help if I needed it, but there was no baby. It was no like, oh, poor you. Oh, yeah, you don't have to go to swim class. It was like, no, 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 you're gonna swim. And I guess I feel so grateful because I don't go walking around thinking, ooh, I don't think I can do that. Ooh, I don't think I can do that. Ooh, gosh, yep, can't do that. It's more like, no, I can do every single thing. And when I can't, I figure it out or I ask somebody. And I just am really grateful that I have grown up with that mentality. And I think it has vastly impacted my ability to, I don't know, get as far as I have and have the people around me.
I definitely agree, and it really makes you realize that not everybody has had that same
Yep,
experience. Um,
exactly.
yeah, I would tell people all the time. It's people that say things about me and when they would say things about me when I was younger, it's like that doesn't bother me. I have a sister, I have an older sister and cousins. Like we my sister would my sister would fuss and fight with me like, because there is nothing wrong with me in her eyes. So
Right.
she
There
yeah,
is
so
actually nothing wrong with you in
right.
anyone's eyes, but continue.
Yeah, so she would just, fight with me and just treat me like, and we would argue like siblings do, and it's just, it's really great that you can share that, your parents gave you that experience, and my parents gave me the same experience. As I said, I have spina bifida. My leg muscles don't work. We had a 9 foot deep pool in my backyard. My dad said he's going to learn how to swim. Terrified my mom, but he was like, and he didn't know how he was going to do it either. But
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and that was the thing. They didn't send me to a swim school. No, they had me in the backyard, and he taught me how to swim. Use your arms, and keep yourself up, and go underwater, and come back up, and tread water. So it's
Yeah.
those types of experiences, as you said, have. I also say that they have made me gotten me to this level of where I am today in life, and it's something that it's really I'm really grateful for, because I know a lot of people don't have that same experience. So it's definitely something to be grateful for. And then now as an adult, I still have those friends that do the same, that push me, and it's like, okay, yeah, like you can do this, you got this, like let's figure it out together. And I live on my own, and in the last 2 years with this pandemic, I've had friends that are just like, hey, so you don't have to go out to the store. I'm going to the store for my family. Can I pick you up anything? We're getting a delivery from Sam's or BJ's or something, and do you need anything? We'll drop it off to you. And just those little types of things where um where they know I'm capable of doing things, but to help me out, it's like, hey, you don't need to go out, we're going out, so let's
Yeah,
help you out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So
I think, and exactly what you said, right? They know that you're capable of it. And it's
mhm,
not that, oh gosh, I don't think you can go to the grocery store. And that is, and because I think, of course you too, there's all these people who are like, oh my God, you can't do anything.
right,
And it's so exhausting. And so, right, like, sure, it's super helpful when someone zips my coat, right? But I can do it if I have to. And
right,
and someone and you can tell the difference when someone's like, oh hey, like, do you want me to zip your coat real quick? And then it's like, oh, poor you, like, do you even know how a zipper works? Like, let me do that.
right.
So yeah.
Yes, I am enjoying this conversation so much because I can
Right.
identify with so many of the things you're saying. I identify with them so
Uh-huh.
much.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you have it, but like, I swear to God, almost every time I'm in the airport, when you're going through security and you have to like put your stuff on the conveyor belt and you like put it
Hmm.
in I swear to God, every time I reach for a tray, it's like, oh my God, let me do that for you.
Right.
Why? Like, do you see? Like, I literally just have to lift it up like 2 inches.
Right.
Like, I got all the way to this point in my life. You really think I need help with that? Oh God, it drives me
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like you don't. It's one of those things where it's like you don't know how to be me better than I know how to be me. Like I can.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like this, and then I'll stop. And it's this. It feels sometimes with some able-bodied individuals in the world. We will not stereotype here, lovely ones, but it's like this automatic. Oh my God, you have a physical disability. One, I'm going to have no boundaries with you, and you probably don't either. So I'm going to just be incredibly rude and anything. And right, this instant need to like fix everything and do everything. And it is just baffles me.
Hmm.
So
Yes,
yes.
I agree. Me too. So for the last uh year or so, I have had a series I started here on the podcast called Mental Health Mondays, where we
Mm,
discuss mental health topics. Because according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, mental health diagnoses are considered disabilities, and I wanted to make sure that I did my part in addressing mental health topics on the
mm.
podcast as well. So, in your introduction, you did share that you are a LCSW, and can you share with our listeners what that is, what type of educational background you have, and um, who are your primary clients that you work with?
Absolutely. So right, I'm an LCSW, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Then once you do that with social work, and I mean a lot, you could get a BSW, so a bachelor's of social work. I did not do that. I just did a bachelor's of public health. So then I went on to the University of Southern California and got my master's in social work. So at that point, you would be an MSW. And then once you have an MSW, if you so choose, you can become a licensed clinical social worker, meaning you're licensed, you have done, the exam and the certain amount of clinical hours that you need for whatever state you're living in. So yeah, so the work that I do clinically, right now, I work with kind of three different populations. So I work with like professors and physicians and staff at CU, and then I work with students and residents, and then kind of my like specific focus in my clinical work is working with individuals who are LGBTQ plus, but really specifically within that spectrum, individuals who are within the transgender spectrum. So really working with individuals. Primarily, I really try to get referrals who are helping individuals really kind of figure out, like when they're really early into their journey, right? So really like, oh my gosh, like very much questioning or right, like questioning sexuality, questioning their gender and or both. And then, like, gosh, how if I say identify as a trans man, trans masculine, how do I come out? And though that's really like my primary focus. So yeah, I really love it.
Yeah, I was so excited when you reached out and asked about
Mm,
we were talking about being on the podcast, and you were sharing that information with me, because it's a topic that I had not explored on the podcast before.
I
So
love
I
that.
wanted to make sure that that we did address it and talk about it, because um, well, first, can you share with us what transgender means, and what that spectrum consists of?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yes.
So okay, so transgender, that word is really, it's like an umbrella term. Okay, so think about it as, I mean, people say like, oh, I'm trans or oh, I'm transgender, but really it's the actual word is meant as an umbrella term. So it's anyone who their assigned sex is at birth does not align with the gender that they feel, right? So this could be someone who's non-binary. So, someone who, like, for myself, I will only speak for myself, but like I identify as non-binary, meaning I don't identify as a man and I don't identify as a female. I really feel, I mean, I do actually identify with both in different ways, but I really kind of feel like I'm in the middle. I like to describe it like I feel kind of emotionally more like a woman, but physically I'm very attracted to looking more masculine. That's kind of the easiest way. Obviously, it's very layered and complex. So right, so okay, so right, so you have transgender, and then it's like anything within that. So queer, trans masculine, trans feminine, non-binary. It's anyone who exactly that. Their sex at birth doesn't align with how they feel.
Yeah, as I started to say, I was happy to have you on to discuss this topic, because there are people within the who identify as having a physical disability, who
Mhm.
also experience uh, the trans have the trans experience, and it's something that's not really discussed.
Yeah.
You might see somebody on social media, on an Instagram page, or somewhere on Facebook or something like that. So I really wanted to have this conversation and really get to what the definition was, and the meaning of the word. And like you said, it's an umbrella term, which I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that. So it's really important that we're having this conversation. So thank you for sharing that, and sharing also your story as well.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like at least you don't hear of a lot of individuals who say have a disability and say identify as, within the trans spectrum. I think, it's I remember when early on when I was like, oh gosh, what gender am I? I remember thinking like, oh my God, am I really gonna add like one more thing to who I am, right? Because it's like, it's enough having a disability. So why on earth am I gonna just tack on another one? And then I was like, you know what? No, add it to my tab. Like I already got it going on. I might as well add another one. But it really, it is, it adds on, and it's a lot to show up in the world with a disability. And then it's a lot to then add on gender. Because like it's a lot for other people to kind of comprehend about you. So yeah.
And to add another level of that understanding of you, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely hear you on that. It's really it can be very complicated, or but I'm glad that you chose to do that for yourself. Like you said, being your authentic self is always the goal and the most important thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I agree.
So um in your work with the transgender community, have you found that they are more at risk for developing mental health diagnoses? And if so, what risk factors make that so, make them more susceptible to developing a mental health diagnosis?
Mhm. Ooh, hitting hard at the jugular. Big answer is yes, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of studies and surveys that are done. I think it really, a lot of it, and I know like this is so cliche, but it comes down to acceptance, right? Like there are so the major like the percentage of homeless youth who, or the percentage of youth who are homeless, the percentage of those individuals, it's skyrocketing that they are like queer in some way. And so it really comes down to a lot of mental health concerns within this population are are correlated with not being accepted, whether that's being disowned by family or friends or losing jobs or losing relationships. There's so much continued stigma around individuals who are within the trans spectrum, LGBTQ plus in general. And so, there was a study done recently of youth, and it was so the youth who had done the study, um, so it was about pronouns, and it was done by the Trevor Project, and it asked something like, um, well, it found that youth who experience, for the most part in their lives, people using their correct pronouns, right? Something as small as using correct pronouns, as I mean, pronouns are blown up in society as these huge things, but for the most part, like it's not that big of a deal. But so youth who had been able and continue to experience people respecting their pronouns were half as likely to commit suicide than the counterparts who their pronouns were disrespected. And again, that highlights that it comes back to acceptance. Like individuals who do not experience being delighted in and being accepted for something that is inherently they cannot change, their mental health issues skyrocket. I mean, how could they not, right? And I think, and so right, so you see a vast majority of individuals committing suicide. You see depression and anxiety, and I mean, the list just goes on and on because so many individuals experience so much hate from family, from friends, from society as a whole. And it can rip you apart. I don't know if that answered your question. I'm sorry I went on a tangent, but
No, it definitely answered my question for sure.
Okay.
And I
Okay,
was
good.
so this last question, it's kind of I guess I can break it down into two last questions.
Okay.
The first part of the question is for those who may be listening who may want to learn more about the transgender community, the LGBTQ community, are there any resources that you can provide, any books or anything that you can share with them? And then, in addition to that, can you provide any resources for those that are within the LGBTQ plus or trans community who may be interested in seeking some mental health assistance?
Ooh, gosh. Yeah, I think I should have become prepared for this. I'm looking at my bookshelf of books. I mean, there are some good books. So for individuals who, say identify as cis or in whatever way, and they want to find out more information. Yeah, like there's like non-binary lives. I mean, there's a ton of different books. I would just like go on Amazon, honestly. I mean, it's basic and just like look up, books on gender and come up with them. There's also for anyone who's listening who's a parent who wants to educate maybe their kids on this population. There's also really good books for kids. There's one called I think it feels good to be me, or it's either it feels good to be you or it feels good to be me. It's a great book. So a lot of good books. I would say for both individuals who are within the community and also individuals who are outside in some way, allies wanting to learn more. You can always go to the Trevor Project online. You can go to the ACLU. Human Rights Campaign. Those are great places to start out because, I would be wary of just good old Google searches. It's fine, but you will find things that, may be very biased. Also, if individuals have social media, there are great accounts on, say, even Instagram of individuals in the community really dedicating their profiles to education. And then it's a little bit hard, your question about like, if someone identifies as trans in some way and they want resources, just because I wouldn't know where they live.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think you can probably go to like the Trevor Project and put in your address and see, but really, looking at like mental health, LGBTQ plus resources, Googling that in whatever place that they live. I mean, there's tons in Denver, and really you can just do a Google search of that. I feel like I'm not answering the question very well, so I apologize. There's like so much and so little all at once.
Right. Yes.
It's but yeah, really I would focus on online, like the Trevor Project, ACLU, Human Rights Campaign, just to start with, and then you can branch off from there.
Great. I think that is a great place to start for sure for everyone.
Yeah, could be
Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
Yes. Benny, thank you so much. I really
Of
enjoyed this
course. Thank
conversation.
you
This
so much for having me. It was wonderful. I
Yes,
feel
this was
honored.
so much fun. I'm excited to stay in touch with you and to
Yeah.
visit to
Yes, come visit. I'll take you to a
yes
good restaurant.
yes to
Yes.
visit Denver and I've
Yes.
never been there, so it's I'm
It's
looking
wonderful.
for new places to visit when I can get outside again. So
I love it. I love it. Also,
yeah,
we're both wearing blue polos, so I just wanted to point that out.
we are. Yes, we are. I
We
noticed
are.
that too.
And yeah, and like I'm just saying, we're very connected. So that was
Yes,
awesome.
yes, well, yes, absolutely. I did. I noticed that. I was like, oh wow, look at that.
I know. It's Blue Polo Monday,
Yes,
y'all.
it's Blue Polo
So
Monday. That's it.
exactly.
Yeah, I was like, what shirt would I wear today? And I'm like, I don't want to wear anything long sleeve. So I was like, I'll
Oh
wear
yeah,
the
yeah,
blue
yeah.
polo.
Love it. Love it. Love it so much.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, it's just been a great conversation. And again, like I said, I'm looking forward to staying in touch and, hopefully working and collaborating again in the future. So
I
it's
would absolutely love that.
yeah, this has been great. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. I want to make sure that this podcast is as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions or any topics you would like for me to address in an upcoming episode, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Our View for Life. That's OURVIEW, the number 4, LIFE. You can also email me, ourviewforlife@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.